Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Cobbler. I'm a reporter with Axios based here in Austin. I write the daily Axios Austin newsletter. It's free to subscribe. I'd love it if you did at axios.com/Austin. Please help me welcome Carl Pei to the stage. Hi, Carl. Yeah, these seats are a little deep. Okay. So let's just start with the basics. Let's catch the audience up here if they are not aware of what Nothing is, what your brand Nothing is. So just start from kind of describe what the company does and where you've built it, where you started it, like talk about the growth here.
Yeah, maybe taking a step back first, like I grew up when tech was really exciting and inspiring. I grew up with gadgets like the Sony Walkman, the first iPod, the first iPhone, and those products were the reason why I am working in this industry right now. And as I got older and started being in the industry, things got more and more boring. And it didn't look like anybody else was going to do anything about it, so I thought, why don't we try? Because at least we have the experience, and if we don't try, perhaps nobody else will, and then tech will be boring for a very long time. So we started in 2020, towards the end of 2020, with the mission of making tech fun again. We wanted to create products that inspire the next generation of creatives, just similar to kind of how I was inspired when I was younger.
Why start with audio back in 2020?
Well, we want to have a full ecosystem of different products, and we know that the smartphone is a very important product for everybody. We use it for multiple hours every single day. It's like one of our most intimate devices. As we were trying to make our phone, we got rejected by everybody. So all the factories and all the suppliers said, "Hey, we've heard the story before. There's been founders who's raised more money than you, are more famous than you, more capable than you. They tried to do this and they all failed, so we're not going to work with startups anymore." So when we started, there had been multiple failures, startup failures, of companies who tried to make smartphones. So when it was our turn, nobody wanted to take a chance on us. So we took a step back and said, okay, no worries, let's figure out like how we fix this. And we said, okay, let's pick another category, wireless earbuds. And it's also a big category because back in 2021, I think there were 300 million of those sold around the world. For smartphones, it's about 1 billion, so 300 million is still a lot. So we said, hey, let's pick another big category and let's prove ourselves. Let's prove to the world that we can design something iconic and also sell a lot of those, and then we will get the trust or earn the trust to take the next step. So that's why we did audio. Luckily, we sold quite a lot. We sold like 600,000 units, and that enabled us to raise the capital, but also gain the trust from the supply chain to make our first smartphone.
What is your pitch now when you're trying to fundraise and your pitch to customers?
I mean, I think these are different things, fundraising and customers, because customers, like we're in a consumer business, so people are actually, I mean, they make a salary and they pay tax and they have to buy our product. So we need to deliver something that really works here and now, like really high quality. So if you look at our users, the main reason why they buy our products is because of our design and our software. And that's what we're pitching today, here and now. When we're pitching to investors, we got to tell them what we want to do in the future. So we started off with audio, went to smartphones, and we will then paint a vision of how we see this industry in the future and what role we would play in it.
Okay, and let's back up a little to the core idea behind Nothing, that the tech industry, especially the smartphone industry, has become boring, right? But we're talking about a over $500 billion industry. What exactly is boring to you?
All the products look the same, right? Every new generation, the changes are minimal. Maybe in 5 years, it changes a little bit. And it's super predictable. every year the battery gets a little bit better, and the camera gets a little bit better, and the screen gets a little bit brighter. There's not that same passion as in the start of this industry, where you were looking forward to the next product. You were staying up late to watch the keynote where the companies launch the products. But I think it's natural, right? Because back in the day, it used to be smaller creative companies who challenged the status quo and made all these products. And over time, these companies got really big. And when they got big, their strategy has to change to be more of a defensive strategy. So less innovation, more kind of playing defense. And this is just par for course. It's normal in every industry. The only difference with our industry is that there are no small companies. There's only a handful of giants, because the entry barrier of coming in is just too high.
So it's more of a creativity problem than really a technology problem.
I think so. I think it's always about the user experience first, and technology serves the user experience.
What was the first assumption about tech that you wanted to challenge when you were launching Nothing? I mean, does it go back to the boring thing that?
Yeah, we started with design,
Yeah.
because we were pretty cooked in the beginning, like huge industry, small team, no resource, no money, no supply chain, and we said, okay, well, our strategy is to pick big, pre-existing industries, 300 million units every year for earbuds, 1 billion every year for smartphones. So our challenge is not to invent a new way of using technology. We're entering a category that somebody else has already created. So how do we differentiate ourselves the fastest? And for us, the answer was design. So we really focused on working with some of the best designers in the world in the beginning, to create the product design, to create the kind of brand universe design. And now, 5 years later, when you do surveys and ask our users, why did you pick Nothing? Design is always the #1 reason.
Yeah, and a big part of your decision at the beginning, we've talked about this a little, was deciding to create a hardware company compared to software. Can you talk about that?
I just don't have any experience in software, and I felt like it's really hard to get users for software, maybe because of my inexperience, but I thought in the beginning, when the App Store just came out, there were kind of dumb apps that had a lot of users, like beer drinking apps or a Labyrinth app. But then over time, because there weren't a lot of apps, but there were a lot of iPhone users back in the days, so everybody was in the App Store downloading everything and trying it. But over time, the competition just got so high, making apps. It went from apps being just finding users organically on the App Store to, like, now people have to pay a lot of money to put their advertising on the app stores in order to get the users. So I just felt like distribution would be really, really hard if we were a software company. It's easier to start, but the competition is like way higher. For our type of business, it's very, very hard to start, but there are no competitors. Like, there's no other startup in the world doing what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I want to talk more about your vision for apps on Nothing phones later too. But going back to kind of creating the design for your hardware, walk me through your design decisions from the start, because that's obviously a really important piece of how you sell these products.
Yeah, we were really lucky because I was introduced to somebody called Jesper in Stockholm, Sweden. It's where I grew up, but he has a company called Teenage Engineering. I had never heard about that company before, so when a friend said, hey, I want to introduce you to this company, my first reaction was like, no, why? Because we're a brand new company, nobody knows our brand. We need to be working with like well-known brands like Gucci or Dior. That's what I told my friend, like, why don't you introduce us to Dior? But then he convinced me to meet with Teenage Engineering, and they were just so creative. And it turns out that a lot of the advertising in Sweden, like the TV advertising in Sweden that I saw when I was a kid, was actually directed by Jesper. He was like the producer and director behind those. So he's been a part of my life. even though I didn't know it at that time for a very long time. We just met up and had like a 45-minute conversation and shook hands, and their company, Teenage Engineering, became our co-founder. It's kind of not normal because usually you have human co-founders. We had a company be a co-founder because he already had a company. He couldn't just say goodbye to his company, but we really wanted to work with him and have his creative mind also contribute. And because we had this team working with us, this team had a lot of credibility within the industrial design community. So it was really through this partnership that we were able to build a very strong internal design team as well. Like the first person we hired was, to us internally, was the former head of design at Dyson, for instance. It's a British electronics company. And then we built a really strong team. Recently, we've been able to recruit Apple people, or British Apple designers who spent some time in the US and want to move back. So we built a really strong design team like this.
But you've talked about wanting to create this suite of products that, I mean, they're identifiable to your brand even without a logo. And I think that, that's also the case with like Apple products. I think you've talked about Sony as an example in the past, but is that still your mission when you're coming out with new designs?
Yeah, in the past, when we made products at other companies, the way we designed it was that we had the designers compete. We have this new product we want to build, split up into different teams, and then regroup in a couple of weeks, and put all the designs on the table, and we just kind of pick the one we like. But while every product looked beautiful individually, it was not like a consistent thread. There wasn't a consistent thread across all the products. So, and then when we looked at companies from the past that we respected, like Sony or Apple, they had a way more consistent design language. Like you didn't need to see the logo to know which company made it. So that was one of our goals in the beginning. So before actually designing the products, we made a design book where we collected inspiration from movies, from furniture design, architecture, electronics. It was more like a mood board of how we wanted the brand and the products to feel. That was kind of like the first half of the book, and the second half of the book was us starting to try and design some of our own products, like mocking it up. How would it look like? So I think that's the way we built this consistent language. We don't have our designers compete. We make sure we have some of the best designers in the world, and everybody is working on different projects. And through creating this kind of a design culture, we're able to attract designers that otherwise wouldn't have wanted to join a culture where they have to kind of compete with each other. Yeah.
Well, when you're talking about making tech fun again, is it the design aspect that's most important to you? Is it the, what's inside the phone, what you're seeing on your phone, the software, the operating system?
Yeah, design is a good place to start because it's fast. But you can't stop there because consumer taste changes. Like they might like us today and tomorrow they might have a different preference. But also, it's not enough. Like, I've studied Apple a lot. I was a big Apple fan when I was younger. And, they really targeted the creatives, not just through design. They had beautiful designs, but in the 90s, they also acquired a couple of like small software companies and made them into creative tools like iMovie, GarageBand, etc. So the common person could also use Apple computers to manifest their creativity. So I think it always has to be hardware and software hand in hand, and ultimately it has to empower people creatively. I think the opportunity we have is that Apple has kind of abandoned the creative community now that they've gotten so big. They have to be everything for everyone, and the creatives no longer have a go-to brand, and that's like a white space in the industry that we can build towards.
Yeah, you've talked about with Apple it feeling like, every update is just similar to the last. what do you aim to do when you release a new phone through nothing? Are you trying to come out with something completely different every iteration, or?
We're trying to find our balance. Sometimes we change too little from one generation to the other. Sometimes we change too much. We're trying to find our pace. If you change too quickly, sometimes the consumer gets a bit confused. So one example is we started off with our first phone having these light strips on the back covering like most of the phone to notify you of what's important. And then we recently, last year, we changed it to, I don't know if people can see it, but this screen on the back of the phone. And a lot of our users were like, hey, I wanted the lights. Why did you change it? So we're still figuring out the balance.
Yeah. Let's talk about the light part of this too. And I know that you've thought a lot about that when it comes to notifications. And I think that kind of ties into what I'm trying to ask you here, which is that there's this growing trend that we've been writing about analog hobbies, that people are wanting to find ways to get off their phones. They're, bricking their phones using like obviously screen time apps and things like that. I mean, how much are you thinking about that kind of trend when you're building a smartphone company?
Quite a lot, because this product is called smartphone, but it's not really making us smart. Maybe in the early days of the smartphone it was, but these days most people are just spending time doom scrolling. And there was a study recently that linked doom scrolling to being more stupid, like your IQ would drop. So we wanted to help people be more intentional about their smartphone usage. That's why we had these light strips on the back. You could customize it to show certain patterns for certain apps or contacts. And now we switched to a small screen. So for instance, when my fiance is trying to contact me, she has her own icon, like a smiley wink face. And everybody else is just blank. So I know when I need to pick up my phone, and I know when I don't need to, so I don't have to always like anxiously see whether I missed a message. And then when you unlock the phone, our user interface by default is monochrome. It's black and white. It's not that fun to look at. And we've also added the option to hide the label under the apps. The reason why we did the monochrome is because in terms of like branding, color is one of the most powerful signals of a brand. So by stripping away the power from the apps of having colors, you really have to be intentional about looking for the apps you want to use to avoid just naturally, by accident, clicking your social media app and then starting that doom scroll cycle again.
Yeah, it seems like a tension between wanting your customers to be using their phone, but also like you don't want them to doom scroll. You don't want them to click on the cute app all the time.
Our mission statement is make tech fun to inspire human creativity. I don't think doom scrolling will help people be more creative.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the marketing strategy a little bit. I mean, you obviously, you don't have like the dollars to compete with Apple or Samsung on marketing. So, I've seen that you've turned to YouTube and more like short form videos. Where have you found the most success when it comes to marketing and advertising?
I think for me, marketing is at its essence about arbitrage. I think it's about discovering new ways of reaching people in a more efficient manner than your competitors. Because if you don't do this, you end up paying the same amount to reach a person as your competitors. And when you're a challenger brand like us, our budgets are tiny compared to the likes of Apple and Samsung. So if we have just copied their tactics, we wouldn't have gotten anywhere. A lot of people, they like Apple's 1984 Super Bowl ad, and that was a super cool ad during that time. And because back then, Super Bowl hadn't become this place where you showcase your ad. But them doing it first and having such a disruptive ad, it just got them so much like peripheral value. If you do the same thing today, it's not going to drive the same amount of organic value on top of it. So we're trying to find new tactics all the time. we experiment and we test. Um, what we were really good at doing in the beginning was working with the tech reviewers. So simply when we had a new product, we would make sure that the key reviewers in all of the different countries had our product, and we would pre-brief them. We would have schedule a call before the review came out to talk through the product and answer any questions they might have. However, we saw that over time, the tech media lost traffic. Like every year, the traffic became lower and lower because people's time was being shifted to social media and video, especially short form. So the last couple of years, we've been making a lot more short form video and trying to learn about that tactic. I think last year we did probably around 800 million organic views on content, and we're still learning. But now I've stepped away from marketing because we were able to hire a guy called Charlie Smith. He used to run marketing at Loewe. So now he's our chief brand officer, and I can focus on other things. Like he's done a great job. So for those who don't know, Loewe is this. It was kind of this sleepy Spanish luxury fashion brand. LVMH bought it, and then they revived it. I think in 6 years it went from 400 million euros in revenue to 1.8 billion, and today it's like the first luxury bag that Gen Zs would buy when they have enough money. So it felt like a super good fit for us because we're targeting the next generation consumers. We want to differentiate through design and creativity, and we love social media. Loewe did a great job on TikTok as well, so it just felt like the perfect fit. So I can finally step away from the marketing stuff.
So you're finding that your audience is really like Gen Z?
Yeah, the average age for our audience, for our users, is 26. It's the youngest in the entire industry.
What are you learning about that audience as you advertise and stuff? That I guess you need to find them like where they're at on their screens, right?
Yeah, I think we're like super honest, and they like it. My most popular video on YouTube is me reviewing the iPhone, but also criticizing our own product. And I actually said the iPhone is better in a lot of aspects. So I think there's no need to. We should assume that everybody's intelligent, and no need to like use corporate speak or beat around the bush. Just be honest with people. I think Gen Z really value authenticity.
Yeah, let's turn to Apple a little bit. I mean, Apple's dominance is really also, it's not just hardware, it's from its operating system. And, a lot of people, my friends all the time are worried about our group chats turning green, right? That's like a huge thing to compete with, especially in the US. What is your vision for software at Nothing and its capabilities?
Yeah, I think first of all, Apple is very big now, and having monopoly on some of these things and not opening it up for interoperability doesn't feel like the right thing to do anymore. Like, I understand if you're a innovating small company or you develop these proprietary technologies that help you compete in the market, that's super fair. But now, when you have 90% market share in 18 and below, and you lock your ecosystem down so that devices don't interoperate, messaging doesn't interoperate, file transfers like AirDrop doesn't interoperate, it's beginning to stifle competition. I live in Europe, so I guess Europeans care more about these things. I might write some opinion pieces in Europe. But for us, I think the big opportunity we have is AI, right? There's so much buzz about AI, but I think it's a great time to experiment. Everybody's trying to figure out what AI is going to bring. The most exciting thing that we've launched so far is something we call essential apps. So you can log into a web platform and just describe the app you want to see, and it generates it through AI. And if you don't like it, you can keep prompting it and changing it. And if you're like an engineer, you can also go into the code and just change the code. And once you're done, you click deploy, and it shows up on your phone instantly. So basically, we're democratizing app creation. Yeah, I think that's really exciting. Right now, it's in a beta, so the capabilities are not super high, but imagine a world in the future where the smartphone experience is personal to everybody. You have the apps that you made or your friends made. They might not be perfect for everybody, but it's perfect for you. And I think it's going to be like a mindset shift, because today, if you make an app and nobody downloads it, you have one user, you feel sad. But in the future, because it's so easy to create software, even if you only have one user that really loves the product, it's a perfectly fine product. So there's going to be a mindset shift.
So you want it to be possible for everyone, you know, the bar to be very low to be able to get an app, in the app store or whatever it is.
Yeah, we have our own version of that now. But I don't expect everybody to do it. I expect, 10% of the people to do it and 90% of the people to just browse and consume what other people have made. We're also building a remix function, so if you made something that I kind of like, but it's not perfect for me, I'll just take your work and remix it to fit me perfectly.
And you've also, haven't you talked about a world in which there are no apps?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the next thing that happens.
Explain that more. It's hard for me to imagine.
Well, the current way we use phones is very old school. It's pre-iPhone. It's like there used to be Palm Pilots and PDAs back in the day. And if you think about the user experience, it's still very similar. You have lock screens, home screens, apps. You browse different apps. Each app is like a full screen thing. There's some kind of app store that allows you to download more apps. So it hasn't really changed for like 20 years, this interaction model. I think that's also one of the boring things about this industry. Like, hey, the technology has really evolved. Why are we using the products in the same way? And if you analyze the time we spend on our phones, a lot of it is spent kind of doing admin things. It's very hard to get things done on a phone. Let's say we want to grab coffee. That's like an intention. But to execute that intention, we have to go through so many different steps and so many different apps. It's probably like 4 apps to grab coffee with somebody. Some messaging app, some kind of maps, some Uber, calendar probably. I think, the future of smartphones or operating systems should just be, I know you very well, and if I know your intention, I just do it for you, instead of having to go through all the apps manually.
So your smartphone would be able to book your reservation, get you there, set the Cal invite with your friend?
Yeah, it should.
Through AI?
I think the first step, which some companies are testing right now, is that it can take a command and execute that command. So it could be flights or hotels. I mean, it's always flights and hotels. It's like all the demos are flights and hotels. I think that's also super boring. I think the next step is it knows your intentions, like more long-term. For instance, I want to become healthier. I want to lose weight. Like, it's something that you cannot accomplish with one task, but it's like steady progress to reach. And it's over time nudges you to get there. And I think it gets even more powerful when it starts surfacing suggestions for you, right? You don't have to manually come up with an idea, hey, I want to do this or I have this intention. But when the system knows us so well, it will come up with things that we don't even knew we wanted. So I don't know if you guys have felt it, but sometimes when I use my AI like ChatGPT or Gemini, because it has memory turned on, it's starting to make connections with things I've chatted about it with it in the past, like months ago. Things that I don't even have in my memory anymore. So I think over time the systems will know us better than we know ourselves and be able to really create great suggestions.
Okay, kind of scary, and I'll be calling you when that happens. That's tell me, AI has been all over South by this year. It's like every conversation I've had here. And what do you think that most companies, and like particularly hardware companies, what are they getting wrong about AI right now? Is it that they're all doing kind of the same obvious stuff like you're talking about?
I think we got to fall back to the user experience. Like, how are we creating a better product or a better user experience versus what people used to use? Just saying that, hey, this is like an AI feature, that doesn't cut it. I like to think of it as just an ingredient. Like if you make a phone, camera is an ingredient, a display is an ingredient. You don't go around saying, "Hey, this phone has a display," right? It's like saying the phone has AI is like saying it has a display. What are you actually doing with it? What's something valuable you're creating with it? So the essential apps example was one example of what we're doing. Yeah. We also added a side key on our phones. We call it the essential key. So now whenever you have a moment of inspiration, whether you're on Instagram or Pinterest or in your web browser, or you just have an idea you wanted to speak into the phone, just press that button and it saves it into your space. And AI organizes your space for you. It can set up to-do lists. It can set up categories of or clusters of things that are similar. It can sync with your Google Calendar. Like, this is a feature that we feel is more useful than just kind of blindly saying it's AI enabled.
Yeah, I think you're right that a lot of companies are adding these AI features because they feel like they have to. Do you have any, I don't know, like advice for companies, founders, using AI without like building it towards that hype cycle, just creating it because?
Yeah, I think it would be to just understand who you're targeting, like who is your customer. And I think selecting a customer is a two-way thing, right? You pick what customers you want, you deliver value to them, and they also select you. So it's a two-way street. Then in terms of AI in software, I think people should understand that apps are going to disappear. So if you're a founder, startup, and your app is like your core, where the core value lies, that will be disrupted, whether you like it or not. If you have a very strong brand and very strong distribution, you could delay it by a little bit. But otherwise, I would advise everybody to think differently. For instance, if the future is going to be agents doing things for you, and if you have an app, why not open up the API or the MCP so that agents can use it frictionless? I've seen on the smartphones that some companies are trying to mimic the human touch on smartphones. So you have an AI agent that's trying to click like Uber and enter on the keyboard the address you're going to go to. That's not the future. The future is, it's not the agent using a human interface. You need to create an interface for the agent to use. I think that's the more future-proof way of doing it.
Okay. One more, question about AI. It sounds like you're using it a lot within the company, of course. Yeah, talk a little bit about how you use that in the creative process, because I know that's an important part of Nothing. And you work with a lot of creatives. Are they using AI in that work?
I think for us right now, because the models got a lot better in December last year, our team was pretty skeptical last year, but this year people are on board with it. Where we want to start is within our software team, because that's, I think, where we can get the most leverage. So I became a heavy user of Cloud Code now. Like I took a Java class in uni, but it's been many years I haven't touched coding. So I'm able to create like really cool things in just 20 minutes now. And I think on one hand that's pretty inspiring to the team, but it's also a bit scary that I can do it and they might take a year to create one of those features. So just as a proof of concept, like a demo I made was, if you have two phones, you can hover your hand on one phone, and if you have a photo open on that phone, you just grab that photo, and then you take your hand to the other phone and you just drop the photo there, as a way of file transfer. Like it looks like sci-fi, but I just vibe coded it in like 2 hours, and if I can do it, then the team should be able to do it. And so now I'm just trying to inspire the team to move a lot faster. And the organization needs to change a lot, right? Because if you think about the roles, there used to be product managers, designers, and engineers. But today, you don't need that anymore. Like one person will make the entire thing. So we need to reorganize. We need to change the way of working. We need to design the org chart differently. The processes should be different. We're working through that right now. I think it's really exciting.
Great. Let's talk about your new launches and kind of like what's next for Nothing. You recently launched Phone 4A and 4A Pro, right? I mean, and this is your mid-tier devices,
correct.
right? So like, why focus on that part of the market?
So in our industry, you have flagships and you have mid-tier, and some companies have low end. We released our flagship phone, Phone 3, in July last year. And flagship means like the best you have to offer. But I think there's a misunderstanding in our industry where people kind of just ask their suppliers, hey, what's new? And just package that into a product. So asking Sony, what new camera sensors do you have? Asking the chipset provider, what's the latest processor you have, et cetera, and just packaging all the latest stuff into a product and calling it a flagship. For me, that's not a flagship. That's like you just kind of put everything together from the suppliers. For me, a flagship is like the showcase of your most creative ideas. So last year when we released our flagship phone, we released Essential Apps and Essential Space and a couple of those features. The Glyph Matrix, the little screen on the back, which is also open for our community to build on top of. I don't want to release a flagship phone every year just to say we have a flagship phone every year. I want to release a flagship phone whenever we have something new to bring to the market. So that's why we don't have a flagship phone this year. However, we do want to update our mid-range every year because it is like the most popular product range that we have, and a lot of people are anticipating whatever's coming next. And the big opportunity for us in the mid-range market is the other companies don't really care. They put their best teams on the flagship every year, and they kind of outsource or they use not their best team on the mid-range, which is our opportunity. Like we put the A team on the mid-range, and that's why we've been gaining market share recently.
Yeah, and you use colors for the first time, right?
Yeah, we've been really strict with not using colors because we wanted to have everybody remember the iconic design, and we felt like colors would distract people. But now we feel like the market has been kind of trained on our design language for 5 years already. It's time to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, is that, I also imagine your younger audience is kind of important too there when you're thinking about colors.
Yeah, and as a tech brand, speaking to like a tech/creative audience, in the beginning we attracted like 90% male audience. We do want to diversify our user base, and I think colors is also a good way of doing that.
I just want to remind our audience, we'll turn to audience Q&A I'll ask a few more questions, but you can do that within the app start asking those questions. So let's talk about the US market. You don't have a huge presence here yet, but and I think part of that is just the way that you've distributed phones, right? Also that you don't have partnerships with US carriers. What's next for the US?
Yeah, it's by design. We wanted to scale up in other places first, where we could gain the scale quicker than in the US. But starting this year, we're going to take the US market seriously. We started to build our team here. But I think the strategy here has to be a little bit different because Apple has such a monopoly here. Amongst the general population, it's like 60% market share. And for 18 and below, it's like 90%. So I'm wondering whether smartphones is the best product to launch here. Meanwhile, our audio products, they're doing really well here, even without us doing much. It's already our biggest market. And most of our audio users here are pairing it with their iPhones. So maybe that's like a good place to start. We should talk to the carriers. It's been a couple of years we haven't engaged with them in the US just to share our ideas for the future and see whether there's some short-term opportunities to work together. But I think the most fun thing to do is to reinvent the smartphone. In the age of AI, like what does a smartphone look like from a hardware level and a software level? iPhones are great products. If we just have a product that's similar to the iPhone and with a cooler design, I don't think that it's going to cut it. People, they're not going to switch. We have to deliver an experience that's fundamentally different and better. And I think we have the opportunity to do so. So that's the more interesting things in a couple of years for us here.
Yeah, it sounds like you're ready to kind of go back to where you started with audio in the US and then bridge that gap, hope that people get hooked on nothing.
Yeah, I think, we, in our 5-year journey, we've taken it kind of step by step. When we studied the industry and we saw that everybody who tried had failed in the past 15 years, we said, let's just establish solid foundations first. Supply chain partnerships, the team, because like having an idea for a product and shipping the product, there's so many steps that you have to take, from quality control to design to software engineering, hardware engineering, customer support, like all that stuff. So we weren't really pushing on product innovation that much beyond design and some software. But now we reached almost $1 billion revenue scale. We feel it's time to start taking the risks. So starting this year, we're going to take more of a thought leadership position in the industry, not just make these products that already exist that other people have made for decades, but also starting to create like novel products. And I think once we do that, the US market will be a lot more receptive to our products.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're already hiring here in the US. Can you tell me anything about employee headcount here, or where you're hoping to go in this coming year?
We're 2 people here now. Yeah, it's the beginning. Yeah, initially I thought we would be based in SF, but we met some people who didn't want to move. So maybe we'll just have a remote team here in the beginning, and then once the business reaches some scale, we decide to build the office later.
Okay. Just kind of big picture. I mean, you've been building consumer tech companies for a while now. What have you learned about the industry that you didn't understand when you started?
Because I used to be an outsider. I used to be a fan of these products and these companies, and I would have a lot of ideas and suggestions. And hey, if I ran this company, I would do things differently. Today, I get a lot of suggestions from other people, and some of them I really want to do, but they're just so hard to do. So I've learned all the practical reasons to why you can't do a lot of things. For instance, people want smaller phones. I also want a smaller phone, but the market for small phones it's small. So if we made a small phone, we wouldn't sell a lot of those, and we would lose money. So I think the biggest learning is knowing from the inside how things work and how rational we have to be, because a hardware failure, a product that doesn't succeed, is just so costly compared to a software bug that you can patch immediately.
Okay, you're getting better at ignoring ideas too.
Not ignoring, but we should kind of filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's next for Nothing? You've talked about wanting to be IPO ready in the next few years. Do you still see that as being on the horizon? And what has to happen to make that?
Yeah, it's not an important thing. I'm not looking to IPO and then leave, because I tried retiring already and it's very boring. So if we do an IPO, it's more just another fundraising round if we need the money, and then we will see whether we take the money privately or publicly. We'll weigh the pros and cons, basically. So we've said internally, let's just be ready by the end of 2028, and then we don't have to do it, but let's get our house in order, build the right teams, right processes, and just be ready. But it's not a big deal, I think. The big deal is more building legendary products. Can we evolve from building products that already exist to really defining the future of how humans and computers interact?
Okay, last question from me, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. But if we have this conversation again in 5 years, I mean, at that point, what do you think will have changed the most about how we handle just our devices every day?
I think the smartphone will still exist. We just love our phones too much for it to disappear. But I do think the operating system will change significantly. There will also be a couple of new devices that are important to us. It's a very exciting time. The entire industry is testing new ideas, and we're definitely gonna test some new form factors and some new ideas as well. But in 5 years from now, we'll have landed on a couple of things that people love as an industry.
Yeah, I think this audience question is a good tie into that. What will be the next killer of cell phones? Glasses, contact lenses? How long will that take?
I think the only real killer will be a brain-computer interface, basically a chip in your brain. Before that, I think smartphones are just too prevalent. Like 1 billion are sold every year. There's 5 billion phones out there being used right now. The other products will still exist. They will still be valuable, but they're not going to be your main device. Yes, glasses, watches, pendants, speakers. There will be a lot of other products that we find valuable to augment the smartphone, but it won't take over the smartphone.
Interesting. Okay, let's see what else. Tell me if anything looks interesting to you too, but what's your view on screenless gadgets, like the potential new product that OpenAI is developing?
My personal view is that, well, I think about it this way. So humans, we speak faster than we can type. I think we can speak in like 200 words per minute, and we type in maybe 50 or something like that. So it's a big difference in the efficiency. But we also read faster than we can write. So therefore, reading is very important. So if you remove the screen, you're just making it really hard to use. Like listening is way slower than reading. So the interface that I really believe in is voice in, because speaking is the easiest way to input something, and not audio out. It's still a screen out with not just text. We read text pretty quickly, but if we organize the text in the UI that's simple to scan, like headings and bullet points or graphics, I think that's the most efficient user interface. So I think ultimately it's going to be, mainly voice in, UI out.
Here's another question about Apple. Apple wins on ecosystem, iMessage, AirDrop. How does Nothing think about ecosystem? Do you plan to build one or do something completely different?
We have to. But only if we can provide value. And I think the value is in creating the next generation operating system. If we can find a product definition that people love and adapt it across multiple devices so it kind of flows depending on what devices you have, and it flows from one device to the other, that becomes our ecosystem. So in the future world without apps, when you have this operating system, you might start querying it when you're walking to work. Oh, I want Japanese food later, and it says, hey, pick up your phone, because you got to look at the UI. So I think that something like that will be our future ecosystem.
Interesting. For a creative co-founder, who are essential first hires to bring the most value for a product company? I'm actually not a creative co-founder. I'm more like a resource integrator co-founder. I find people that are great, and I find money, and maybe I help set the strategy. So I guess in general, when you build a team, you just gotta find people that complement your weaknesses, because you're trying to build like a team that doesn't have any weakness. So if you understand your strengths and weaknesses, your team should cover those. Okay. Let's see. You're opening physical stores globally, and you just announced one in New York, right?
We're scouting for locations in New York right now.
Okay. What role does place play in a world that's increasingly digital and AI driven?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot. So in terms of electronic stores, it used to be like the Best Buy model, where you had salespeople trying to sell you products on commission. And then when Apple did retail, they kind of made it about experience. There's nobody trying to push a product to you, but you can learn about the product. And if you had a problem with the product, somebody could help you fix the problem. But after that model came out, everybody just copied it. So the Microsoft Store looks like a copy of the Apple Store, just without any people in it. And the Dyson Store is kind of a black version of the Apple Store. But that model is 20 years old now. So when we build stores, we have a new idea. Let's make it about, out of 100 people who walk in, how many people take a photo? Let's not care that much about sales or the other stuff, but if we can create an inspiring enough experience for somebody to want to take a photo and send it to their friends, or a video and send it to their friends, that should be the number one KPI. We just opened a store in Bangalore in India. Maybe a month ago, we had 2,000 people queue up. We had security. It was pretty popular.
So again, the stores are about the design.
Inspiring creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Take a couple more audience questions. I'm sure you've received offers to buy out your company. Will you ever be open to an exit, or is that non-negotiable for you, and why?
It's not the primary path. Like, I think this could be like an infinite game. We can keep building and keep improving the company over time and the products over time. So it's not the default, but it's not out of the, we should still consider it if we can collaborate with the company to accelerate how fast we can achieve the mission.
What are your thoughts on user privacy in a world where an agent is proactively doing things for me? Where do we draw the line?
I think this is a very good topic. It's something I thought about a lot as well. And going back to the example of when I use some of the large language models, I feel like it's making connections from things I've told it in the past. So in a way, that's kind of eerie, right? Because I think soon, if we keep using these products the same way we use it now, it's going to be able to create a digital replica of us, because we fed it with so much of our data, so that in the future, when you're emailing me or texting me, you don't know if it's a human anymore, and you won't be able to tell a difference. And then if this happens, the next thing that will happen is it can create a physical replica of me when humanoid robots become more prevalent. And then we kind of, as humans, we lose our humanity. So in some point in the next couple of years, there has to be some kind of a break from this, where we stop sharing our most intimate data. Exactly how that's going to work, we're still thinking it through, whether it's a personal hardware device, like a computer on your desk, where you keep your most intimate data and your most intimate inference or compute. So it's like a cloud, but also local hybrid model, or we add some security layers in a pure cloud model. I don't know yet, but I think somewhere in the next 2 years we need to create a break and stop sharing all the data.
This is again about OpenAI hiring Johnny Ive for hardware. Do you see a chance for them to create a truly disruptive AI native device?
I mean, I grew up with a lot of Jony Ive's designs that I really loved. So I think we're in a renaissance time for our industry. It was boring for 10 years. Now with AI, everybody's trying new ideas and seeing what's going to work, what sticks. So I'm really excited to see what they make. I don't know if it's going to stick or not. Like we also have a couple of AI native devices. We don't know if it's going to stick or not, but at least everybody's trying, and we can learn from each other, and it's going to be a very exciting and dynamic time.
Let's see. It's 10 years and things have changed a lot. Would you still accept an internship from Samsung?
Oh yeah, I applied for an internship at Samsung 2015-ish, I think.
Turned down?
And they responded. Okay. I wrote a blog post because I had another startup, and I felt I was out of my depth. So I wrote like a public internship application letter to learn from Samsung. And they told the Korean media that anybody, no matter if it's a celebrity or not, who wants to have a job at Samsung needs to go through the regular process. Do I still want to do it? No, I'm too busy now. Yeah.
Let's see, with Android adapting to multiple screen sizes and mobile chips becoming so powerful, can we see an all-in-one nothing device anytime soon?
I think the future will not be all-in-one devices. It will be multiple devices. Because if you think about AI, it's like the more it knows about you, the better it can help you. And we will want devices to help us collect more context and feed it into our personal intelligence. The phone is kind of like an all-in-one device, but it's not always available. Like now I have it in my pocket. When I'm walking in town, I don't want to use my phone like this. I want other devices to be there to collect context for me. And I want to collect context when I learn that the more context I give my intelligence, the better it can help me. So I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see more and more diverse form factors versus things going into an all-in-one.
Yeah, we have time for a couple more. What does a truly personal device look like in 5 years beyond just personalization algorithms?
I think hardware-wise, we are kind of at peak, right? Like great screens, great battery, great camera. I think going back to what I said before, it's going to be a lot of changes on the software. But I think the big change is like our relationship to the product. Like today, it's a very manual use product. We have an idea, an intention. We go through manual steps to execute that. In the future, it will be so proactive because it knows us so well. And over time, we will have established trust. You know, in the beginning, if there's a transaction, we might want to have a look at the UI. Hey, do you want to pay this amount to this thing that you ordered? Once it's done that 1,000 times successfully, you can probably trust it to just do it autonomously. So I think the main difference is going to be our relationship with technology, not necessarily the hardware.
Any of these look extra exciting to you for our final questions?
Maybe we can do the first one or the last one.
Yeah. Let's do the last one. Why should I switch from iPhone to nothing phone if I use Mac and iPad daily as well?
I use Mac daily. It's the best computer, I think. And it works pretty well. The reason why our users switch is because they just don't want to be like everybody else. When the entire world is using the same white Apple AirPods, they want to be different. We're all different people. Some people want to express their individuality. That would be the reason to try. And, you know, Apple is so popular here in the US that a lot of people think that it's the only option. Who knows? If you try something different, the grass might be greener on the other side.
Yeah, so it goes back to the, what I'm talking about, where everyone's really concerned about their green or blue text bubble. But what you're saying is that, that, like, try to be different here. That's sort of the pitch is there's different ways to express yourself through your devices.
Yeah, I think there's a portion of people out there who don't want to be like everybody else, who want to be on the bleeding edge, who want to try new things. And those are the people that we're currently catering to. Hopefully in the future, as we start releasing some of our ideas on the software side, we will also attract other types of people.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Carl, for chatting with me. Thank you to our audience for joining us. Have a great South by. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Thank you all.
Carl.